Ladies and gentlemen, welcome once again to another episode of Xtreme Memories with Kris Kloss. We're going to be talking about everything XPW. This is episode number 4, and I'm honored, I'm privileged, and I'm just looking forward to catching up with this young man who not only were we business partners, did we work together, but I'd like to think that we were pretty good friends and still are from back in the day. I'm talking about the one and only Luke Hawx, Ultra Boy Luke, so many synonyms, and apparently the 24-inch pythons as well. But we're gonna talk about that. We're gonna talk about. We're gonna try to keep it primarily XPW because that's what this show is. Xtreme Memories. We want to thank everybody for joining us once again. Be sure to comment, like, and subscribe. Share this video and give a thumbs up down in the old Fonzarelli department. Now, I'm going to ask Luke, I'm going to talk to you. I'm going to ask you all about the ins and outs of extreme pro wrestling. We'll get into, of course, you've got into Hollywood, quite a prominent role and quite a prominent position that you've had in some major films, which is great to see. That's right, man. That's right. You're a part of the X-Men franchise, the Fast and Furious franchise, to name a few, and work with actors like Hugh Jackman, The Rock, Jamie Foxx. So the list goes on and on. And look, personally, I was telling you this a little bit off the air, but I mean, I'm just searching up movies, binge watching movies on Prime and on Netflix. And I was like, that's Luke Hawx. And I've heard a little bit about you doing this, but that's Luke Hawx, and I called my girl in, called her kids in, like, yeah, I know this guy, especially
he slept
my
on my couch.
Yes, right. We were roommates for a little bit there, but and that was during the WSX days, and we'll get into that. Yeah, my stepson. Shout out to Jaden Ilbig. He loves Logan, and I said, hey, do you know this guy? He was in Logan, and he looked you up. He goes, oh, that was the guy that got stabbed in the head. So he knew right away who you were and all that. So, yeah, man. So that's awesome, man. So first, let's kick it off. But yeah, again, folks, be sure to thank you very much for watching us, the Wrestling Chatter channel, and all the great shows. Subscribe to us, give a thumbs up, and please put a comment on the YouTube page. We appreciate the comments on Facebook, on Twitter.
And look, say nice things about me. Don't get on there, call me names, and talking about how fat I am. Say something wonderful, how sweet I am, how loving I am, how caring I am. Just spread some love and positivity my way.
That sounds good. That sounds good. You might have some detractors out there, the very controversial Altar Boy Luke. But hey, hopefully all the honesty, we want honesty to come our way. But after you see this interview, I think it will all be positive. But Luke, let's kick it off. You and I, of course, we met in the days of XPW. XPW kicked off in July of 1999, of course, out here on the West Coast in Reseda, California, to be correct. But before we get into when you and I met, when you got into XPW, tell us a little bit about when you first got in to professional wrestling, being from New Orleans. How did it start, for you getting your name out there?
It was just a different scene. If you remember correctly, I moved to California, and I was training with Vic Grimes up in
Northern California, right.
But the reason I did that, because wrestling where I was from in Louisiana, basically in the South, was terrible. It was a bunch of bush league, backyard, guys that have been wrestling 10, 20 years, but never left home in Louisiana and never properly trained. So I knew that I had to get out if I wanted to make something of myself and make a name for myself. And I had the connections to Vic, so I moved to California. With the wrestling on California, the wrestling in California was so much different than the wrestling in the South that it really made me step my game up and made me pick up things a lot quicker. But that's what I wanted to do. I was young. I was hungry. I wanted to be a high flyer. I didn't always want to be a high flyer, but I was light and I was crazy and I was able to do stupid things like 450s and shooting stars and stuff. So it kind of fell into my lap. And what I really wanted to do is I wanted to change the high flying game. I wanted to be inventive. I wanted to just, make my own name in that world, so to speak. You know how Ray did when Ray Mysterio.
Right.
at any means, but nobody had seen the things that Ray did before.
Yeah.
So he became this, almost instant legend with what he was
in
doing.
In the United States, for sure.
Correct.
Right.
And so I really wanted to do the same, and just in my own way. And that's if you imagine and you go back to when I was doing death matches at XPW. I didn't want to do death matches, but
right. I remember that.
I wanted to throw in the high flying and the psychology in the death matches. I didn't want to just go do stupid bumps and stand there and say, "Look how tough I am." I wanted to do things that made sense and build to things, and which thank God Supreme was very cool with, and Supreme treated me really good when I was there. I mean, he could have just killed me because I didn't know anything about those matches. He was a veteran in it, and I was really nervous about doing them because I never bled before in a match. I never did any of that stuff. I never took thumbtacks, mouse traps, anything. So when I got in that zone, it was just a whole different frame of mentality. It was like, oh, these guys are doing it. Well, if they're here, I need to be here. I need to step up. So I need to outdo everybody else. So that was all that was running through my head at that age.
I remember first meeting you, and I remember a lot of guys came in and out of XPW from the beginning all the way to the end. And I'm not just saying this because you're on the air, but I felt like you were able to read and decipher who you liked pretty quickly. As far as, like, I felt like you had this street smart element to you that you could just kind of pick and choose and get a good sense of someone's character. And I think that was noticed. At least it was noticed by me, and I appreciate us clicking in the beginning. But I do think that was, I think, noticed by everybody. Not only did you have that, which showed that in many ways you do have character because you're looking for character. You're a stand-up guy, and you're gonna be all in and be behind the product, and you were. Because there are a lot of guys that were there from day one, and a lot of guys that weren't there from day one that came in that their heart wasn't necessarily into it because they weren't there from the roots on up. And I think that you were one of those few that came in the middle, but it felt like this guy is all in just as much as the guys that were there in the beginning.
I was, and not only that, I became a XPW original because of that, because I wasn't nobody else.
Right.
So it was a good label and it was a bad label. But one thing is, like, I came in so hungry, I wanted it, and as you said, I like anybody, I chose who I ran with, which was you and Vic and all the guys. I didn't run with any druggies or bad people, so to speak. But at the same time, it really left a sour taste in my mouth dealing with some of those guys. And I mean, Rob Black's one of them. It's like I'm out here putting my body on the line for the company and doing this crazy BS that's never been seen before in wrestling, because at that time it wasn't. Nobody did a 450 off a balcony through a table. Never happened. It didn't happen. I did it. So, and then it was like they didn't care about your health. They didn't care about your sacrifice. It was always, how can you top that, or what can you do next? And if you can't do anything for me next, let's get you out of here and get the next one in. So that left a bad taste in my mouth because they just didn't have any regard. Like, Rob didn't know. Rob wasn't a wrestler. Rob was just a money guy and a fan, and he didn't know wrestling. So he didn't understand storyline. He didn't understand, safety. It was all about being tough. And if you did something a certain way, you weren't, like when we got into it, because I put my hand up for a chair shot. And I took it. It was nasty, but he was so upset that I put my hand up for a chair shot, because in XPW, we don't put our hands up for chair shots. Right. Get the hell out of here, bro. Get the hell out of here. It was just stupid stuff like that.
For sure. I actually remember, now that you mentioned that, I remember the very first show in Reseda, and Kid Chaos put his hand up very obviously. And then right when he got knocked down, he just he hit the mat, pissed off at himself that he did that, because he knew what the repercussions were going to be. And this was from day one on, so it's interesting to get different people's perspectives on Rob Black, because
how stupid is that? This is coming from somebody, Rob Black, who has no fucking idea what is involved in wrestling and what you do to your body and the physical aspect of it. Only from watching it. He only watches it, so he thinks he knows about it from watching it. You don't jeopardize people's helps in that way. You know, it's just it's stupid, man. And that's the type of stuff that really left a bad taste in my mouth there. Just the no concern. There wasn't no loyalty, even to the people that were being loyal, I felt.
That could be the case. That could be the case at times. I have felt that. At the same time, it was odd because you didn't necessarily feel that when you were loyal, but in order to stay, you still have to be loyal.
Right.
You know,
right.
so you're not necessarily being rewarded for it. You're just you have to show that ultra loyalty just to keep that position in a way. And then you have to, as far as what helped me out in rocky times was, you know, I just realized you're not going to make everyone happy. One, you're always going to run into less than pleasant people, no matter what line of work you're in. Right. So it was just one of those things where I just had to say, like, all right, look, I don't agree with this and what direction the company's going, but I'm going to stay here and give my beliefs and put that into the product as best I can, and try my hardest not to let this affect me over here. But I wasn't getting beat up like you were. You know, you guys were physically getting beat up, and I respect and understand that.
Like, I mean, look, you know this. Hey, I've told the story many times, but you know it. You were there. When I had all those thumbtacks break off of my hands, and from hitting so hard from the 450, and we had to pull them out with pliers because they couldn't be picked out. We had to dig in my hands and pull them out with pliers. I couldn't close my hands for like 2 weeks. Couldn't close I couldn't pick up my kid. I couldn't pick up my kid for like 2 weeks. And that's the side that people don't see, you know, or they don't like somebody like Rob, they just didn't care about.
Yeah, it's part of it's just like it's part of this is part of it, guys. Get used to it, type thing, you know.
Yeah. And you know, look, I think I was young, I was hungry, but I think I was foolish for doing some of those things and taking it to the level I did at those points because I was but I had nothing to lose. I literally came from the streets. So like this was the time of my life where I was building a name for myself and doing things that, you know, I only could have dreamed of doing. Legit only could have dreamed of doing. It was my dream. So, you know, there's no pity on my end for me and the things I've done. I'm glad I did them. I do it back older, wiser man and go, what was I thinking? You know?
I think too, like when we go through these moments in life, whether it's in wrestling and now you have your son, I want to talk about that too. Father-son tag team and what you guys, you know, what you're doing today. When we go through those moments, it's almost like we go through them so the next ones don't necessarily have to go through them, or we kind of take a little bit of the brunt. It may be like a nightmare in the moment, but not always. But I like to say our greatest gifts are often cleverly disguised as our worst nightmares. Right. And in the moment, it seems like shit, but you know what? There might be something bigger and better awaiting on the other side for this. And as far as like everything you can talk about that was negative in XPW, there was still this like preparation that it gave you for going on to the next level of an indie fed or a WWE or a TNA. That's like it was the Wild West compared to this.
But to me, XPW was better than all those. So I mean, I wish XPW would have stayed around, and because I still loved it, and I loved the guys.
Yeah.
You know, you got frustrated. I was frustrated with Rob. I wasn't frustrated with anybody else. Kevin was great. Smiley was great. The team was great. But I learned so much there, and I built these friendships and you know, relationships that were at first negative that turned into positives, like you've seen the internet wars with like Conan and the people that I've had words with in the past, but we all mended those fences. So and it came along, was like, well, what happened? Why do we have this heat? And then we sat there and talked about it. And okay, I apologize. So if I said something, even the stuff with Shane, you know, after all these years, me and Shane hated each other. I mean, hated each other. Like
I remember that.
Douglas, yeah. And somebody who was once my hero, I wanted to kill him. Like I wanted to beat the hell out of him for real, for the issues we had. And he felt the same way about me. But it took a long time. Finally, we sat down as men. We talked out the problem. We worked together and worked the problem. He apologized to me. I apologized to him. We shook hands. Everything is legit water under the bridge now. And it's nice to have that peace and air that out.
Totally. And it's at times that in a weird way, especially in this business. Like you sometimes going through that and then making amends. It's like now you're closer than you ever were before the altercation.
Yeah.
You know.
And Shane
So
always told me, or I'll check on him, so it's cool. You know what I mean? Like it's like you closer. You build these relationships.
yeah.
And you get on the same page, and that's always better than fighting with everybody.
Of course, and it's crazy to think, like, it's almost silly looking back at all the drama, and I think most people I talk to, though, yourself and others that were involved, most people have let stuff go, but there's a few that were just like they still hold on to it. There's not many, I think most guys let stuff go, but there's a few that it's almost like it just seems beyond silly to keep this stuff going. But so now, Luke, before you came from New Orleans, now it's ironic you say that, because the idea that people have is like, hey, wrestling's all about the East Coast. It's all about the South. Like, that's traditionally where wrestling comes from, and where the traditional psychology of wrestling lives. So it's kind of interesting. I remember at the time too that you had to leave the South to come to California to get the proper training and where you thought wrestling should be going as far as on that level of professional wrestling. And so when you left New Orleans, did you know yet? And what year was that? Do you remember where you left New Orleans to go to NorCal?
It was 2002.
Okay, so at that time, you must have already heard about XPW when you were still in New Orleans.
XPW was huge. Yeah, it was huge.
So what was the reputation and on the minds of everybody, yourself, of in New Orleans, a place like that, of XPW, of Rob Black, and all that?
It was the third biggest company. It's where everybody wanted to go because they had these videos and Suncoast Video and Walmart and all that stuff. You can go. They were always in magazines. They were being picked up everywhere. So that's where you wanted to be, was XPW. And, I moved out there and I started training with Vic. And at first I would just ride down to the shows with him. And I would come hang. And then eventually I got that, my first chance. I don't remember the name of the show. It was the tag team tournament.
Was that at Pico Rivera or Grand Olympic?
It was at Pico Rivera, yeah.
Okay, I think that might have been one of the Halloween shows, no? Liberty or Death? I'll find out here. I got my the Wrestling Chatter team here working on the but
it was Liberty or Death. It was Liberty or
Death. Liberty or Death, and that was July 20th. Oh no, never mind. We're gonna find that right now. So how was it? I mean, I thought he was one of the greats, in and out of the ring, one of the best. How was it training with the legendary Vicious Vic Grimes?
It was cool because, he taught me some spotty stuff and he wanted me to really push myself, but he also taught me a lot about psychology and what things that weren't taught to me in the South. And I really picked up quickly and learned quickly from it, because it was really, honestly, that's kind of where my heart lied. I was between telling a story but doing really cool shit in the meantime, and jumping and flipping and being as inventive as I could be with wrestling. I just want to do new stuff that people didn't see before. So, and Vic was all about. Vic would help me and he'd give me these ideas. And he was a big guy and he could move. He liked to move. He didn't want to work like a big man. He wanted to work like a cruiserweight. So we would run around. But at the same time, always trying to make sense with things. So I was just soaking it up. I looked up to him so much. He was my big brother. So everything he said, I was just absorbing. I mean, he could have told me to eat crap, and I would have. If I would have done that, wrestling, because eating crap would make you a better wrestler, I would have been doing that crap.
That's awesome. I mean, like I said, one of the nicest guys out of the ring, and a great, just awesome. I mean, class act all the way, and he didn't have to be that way, but he was, and that's great. And then whose idea was it, before we get into you as, which I think still to this day, one of the finest matches in XPW, and you can hold it up. It had everything. It had the big man, little man. It had the drama. It had the storyline. It had the action. And I'm talking about XPW's Fallout, you and Supreme. But before we get there, because that was and it had the Cinderella story attached to it. I mean, you look back and that match still to this day lives up. And I remember after we did that match in post-production, and I remember I was like, okay, I'm gonna enjoy calling this match, and I'm gonna, like, as much as whatever I do on commentary, I remember I was like, I'm gonna do everything I do, but I'm just gonna turn that dial up to 10, and because that match deserved that, and I really enjoy looking back at that match.
I got a funny story about the end of the match. I think, and this is credit to Rob Black. I did learn something from him. So,
okay,
I win the match. Boom. Well, the tack's all in my hands. I'm hurting, bro. Everything, my intuition is get to the back and get this shit out. Like, strip down, get fixed with where you got to get fixed at. Pull these tacks out your hands. So I win the match. 1, 2, 3. I grab the belt and I threw the crowd to the back, and I'm all busted up. As soon as I get in back, Rob Black goes, "You just won a fucking belt. Get back out there."
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I remember that. Man.
Oh, well, I'm busted up, but hell with it. I did just win a belt. I got to get back out there. So I ran back out to the ring, held the ring.
Yeah, I don't know where I heard that, because I was up in the crow's nest just watching, and I think I heard it. I think it was on the walkie-talkies. Like, everyone, you could hear it on every walkie-talkie, because before you came back, for him to say that, they were trying to tell people. But I remember that, man, and that just added to that young kid Cinderella story, beating this unbeatable legend, because no one's ever at that point pinned clean the way you did, like the unbeatable only King of the Deathmatch Supreme at that time. Yeah. And for the size difference, and I mean, it was just match.
It was a great match, bro.
It happened at the right time too. Like even though it was unexpected, it was like, see, those were the intricacies of like XPW, that you had your moments that were like frustrating, but then you'd have those gems where they, like, you know what, you guys connected the dots and put the pieces together in a good way, where timing was involved.
We were taking over a new era. I mean, a new area. And it was a new time in wrestling, and they gave me the ball to run with it, and I was this breakout star there. I wasn't the home guy because I didn't train there, but I was with the home guys because one of the home guys trained me, which was Vic. And like, they gave me the ball, I ran with it, and was like, well, we got this new kid. Like, you've seen all our old guys, not old, but the OGs. You've seen the OGs. Yeah. Well, we also got these new kids coming up, and they got take the world by storm. And I was one of those new kids, and thank God I was the one who took it by storm for that era.
Oh, I think honestly, man, like the way when you came in, and then that. You were already a confident guy. You came in with again, the street smarts, coming from the street. So it wasn't like, you were definitely able to handle yourself in the back in this crazy Wild West world. Yeah. With all that you already had, as far as your confidence, the way you came in to the company. I think that on a professional level, because I think you were already fine in the back stage and all that, handle yourself. I think that match, from what I saw, and looking back and at the time, and fast forward to, like, as you progress in your career, I think, to me, that's a pivotal match for your entire career, as far as like young kids shooting your confidence within the business, your confidence through the roof.
And I want to say, rest in peace, Supreme. Supreme, because he was the one behind all that. He was the one who said, hey, this is your time. You run with it. And one of the other things he did was, after that match, he told me to take the belt home. And he goes, nobody's ever took this belt anywhere but me. He's like, he goes, and I wouldn't let somebody else. He goes, if somebody else would have won it, they wasn't taking it home. It'd still be coming home with me. So he take the belt home. And that, that respect thing was one of those things that was dear to me. So I really appreciate Supreme, because he reached his arms out and, accepted me when there were so many others that he didn't. And you've seen it. There was
man.
And if you didn't have Supreme's respect, you didn't have anybody else in the locker room to respect because it was like he was the leader.
There was some crow eating in the beginning, and then it's kind of like what we're saying. Like he was the guy though in the locker room, and he would do his own sifting out of people he didn't appreciate, didn't like, and yeah, I mean, sorely missed. I wish you were out here, man. There's going to be a tribute show October 17th for him, and we're going to just basically do what we can.
Man, I wish
told everybody already. I'm sorry?
I'll donate to it.
Okay, cool. Yeah, and we can't emphasize this enough. Leave your drama at home, boys. This is about Supreme. It ain't about you. So just know that going into this. But yeah. So I mean, we're going to get to that a little bit later. But yeah, XPW's fallout. That we're fast forwarding a bit, but we can do that. And we'll get into that a little bit more. But I want to go rewind a tad here. And who came up? When you first came into XPW, who came up with the Altar Boys? It was Altar Boy Luke and Altar Boy Matthew.
Well, I believe it was Ryan Cat Smiley.
Oh, it was? Okay.
I believe so. I'm not sure. Ryan was the one who talked to me about it and talked to me about the idea. And I know they were supposed to do it with Messiah originally, and Messiah didn't want to do that, and that's why he was Messiah or some BS.
Interesting.
That's what I heard. Yeah, so like it was, and then it was going to be Messiah with Luke and Matthew.
Okay. So he was going to be like the priest, and you guys were going to be like the church. Yeah,
exactly. So
and who knows where that storyline would have gone? Good God, with the way they thought, right? So,
oh yeah,
yeah. Of course. So maybe that was a blessing in disguise. We didn't see that, but a blessing in disguise for you that Messiah didn't want to take that on, because then you became the prominent player. Now, keep in mind, you were showing us the guns earlier, brother. You were showing us the guns, yeah. And then you've come into your own, obviously, since the days of WSX and XPW. But the early days of XPW, if you put a Catholic robe on you, Matthew, and Kleinrock, I don't think you could tell the difference, because you guys, I'm sorry, man, but you were skin and bones when you first came in, my friend.
I was half the size, legit half the size.
I believe it. Yeah. So that was the reason I bring that up, is because that was one of those things where the fans were not expecting to see you do the things you did and to go against the guys you went against. Keep in mind, Luke Hawx going against Supreme. If you watch, folks, XPW's fallout from Philadelphia, there's a size difference there. But if you go back to the early,
you gotta remember the first match. Go back and watch the first match, which was at the show right after Liberty of Death. It was the Deathmatch tournament, and I went against Supreme. I took on Vinny Massaro in the first round. I took on Supreme in the second round. That's what built my confidence up, and that's where Supreme gained his respect for me. But that's where we talked, and he said, look, we had this idea, blah, blah, blah. With you, I said, I'm down with it. A lot more to the story than that, because it wasn't that easy, because I didn't do a death match yet. They had this plan for me, and they called me, and then I called Vic, and Vic got mad because he's like, I was upset because I was nervous. I didn't want to do death matches, but like they were like, hey, kid, we want to give you this ball, and we want you to play with Supreme, our locker room leader, right away. And I'm like, oh my God, I don't want to say no, but I'm scared to death because I never did a death match before, and I'm scared to death of them because I've seen them. So I call Vic, and Vic's furious, and I mean furious. He's like, why didn't they call and ask me? You're my student. They don't just ask you to do some stuff like that. He goes, let me call them, and I'll call you back. So Vic called, and then eventually called me back, and he said, okay. I talked to him, and they know they messed up and blah, 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 but I'm going to leave the decision up to you. Do you want to do death matches? And I was like, not really. He goes, well, look, let me tell you the positives. Let me tell you the negatives, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. So we get into it. End of the day, I say yes. He calls down there and says Luke would do it. And then they put me up against Supreme. And it was like they built it up to me. They're like, we want you to wrestle Supreme. And that was the big thing. And like, we want you to go toe-to-toe with him. And we want you to barely lose. We want you to look like you're going to win. And then you barely lose. And,
right.
Built him. He was such a big deal. And they were saying that, like, nobody's ever had those kind of matches with Supreme, where it was they're on him. So they gave me the first opportunity to run with that, and that product was so good they wanted to do the thing they did at Fallout.
And it was pretty cool because that was Night of Champions, July 20th, 2002, from the Pico Rivera Sports Arena in Pico Rivera, California. Nearly 2,000 people there that night, and it was like that was again the timing because all that momentum and having that victory at the very next time you guys fought, which was XPW's Fallout, but doing it at the time when we were like a little bit more prominent in some ways, being in the old ECW arena. Television product was taking off because we were now syndicated in more places around the U.S. at that time. And of course, that was, unfortunately, looking back, that was the beginning of the end. But during that small window, there was a lot of eyeballs on this company, and it was like the Raiders of pro wrestling. It was like they're in the NFL, but we don't really want to acknowledge them. But they have their base, you know. And
it was crazy. And, hey, people don't understand. It doesn't exist anymore.
No,
that world doesn't exist. We were rock stars, and we were living like rock stars, and we were partying like rock stars. And sorry, I'm so fidgety. I'm sitting in my spin chair, and the thing just moves. So I'm just sitting here going, I can't sit still.
You're a rock star. You're rocking right now, man. Come on.
Yeah, exactly.
But no, we were talking about this too, like talking about how a little bit like when we were as fans growing up in wrestling, we were kayfabed all the way. Like we were kayfabed. And when we got into the business, when I got into it, like in the mid 90s, or mid to late 90s, when I was officially into it, and then XPW started, like I try to tell kids, like, you don't understand, like you were kayfabe. That was, so we were right at the end of that existing. And it was still like, hey, you know what? If you're going to act like a mark back here, get the fuck out. That was it was the best. Yeah. And it was like, it was bittersweet because personally, like I never did interviews like this. Right. And even when it was happening in WSX, I still didn't like doing this because I felt like I'm a different guy. This is not the same guy that hosts wrestling and thinks is real. Right. So I always wanted to keep that separate, but it's bittersweet because it's really fun talking about this stuff. But the bitter side is this is what's doing it. This is what's chipping away at that illusion. But when we were in the back, people try to protect it now, but it's just different. And when we were in XPW in the back, it was like you are if you're back on this side of the curtain, you better behave like you're on this side of the curtain. And if you start acting like a mark, if you start doing this,
you were there with porn stars, famous musicians, movie people. Like there was always somebody around that showed up at XPW.
Yeah, and it was funny because it was like I remember we would do show.
You were a star. It was like these cult followings. Everybody would follow you around, and you got this instant respect. And it was weird.
It was weird.
I never got to experience that growing up. So like I didn't have anything like that or witness anything like that. And then I got thrown to the sharks and was involved in it, which was awesome.
You know, and it's like, and I think that's too like siphoning people out because remember, like at the time, wrestling was booming with like the Attitude Era, the end of the Attitude Era, late 90s, early 2000s. So I think one thing I could say about Rob was that I think he was very good at siphoning people out that just wanted to be stars versus no, this guy really wants just to be in wrestling. And if he happens to become a star, great, but that's not his number one priority. And that's because you grew up with wrestling. I grew up with wrestling. There are guys that grew up with wrestling that did this. And then that whole star thing came along later because wrestling just happened to be big in the mainstream at that time. And then you see people that came in that you, after a while, you're like, this guy doesn't care about wrestling. He's not going to be loyal. He doesn't really even care about pro wrestling. And those are the guys that I think Rob did a good job, especially in the beginning, of like sifting guys out. Like there was a meeting we all had, the first meeting at the office, and like the next day, half of the guys were not there. because they were just overheard bullshitting and talking. And we didn't even know who Rob was. Like, I think that's the guy. Is that the guy? Yeah. But he would just kind of walk through. We didn't know what he was doing at the time. He was just like spying on everybody and listening and like, all right, fuck this guy. Like, you could keep him. Screw this guy. You keep him. But that was the mentality at that time. Like you said, we were stars. There were stars there. There were stars from television that came to the Grand Olympic that were doing shows on Comedy Central, on FX, and you recognize them from these shows, yet they were coming and they wanted to be backstage at XPW, you know? And so as far as like for me, like just wanting to get into wrestling, even living in LA,
I had a lot of fun.
we had fun, but like you, I wasn't into the drugs and I wasn't doing that either. But it was just
but I had fun.
Yeah, I was drinking and that's it, you know. So, but yeah, okay, yeah. All right, how much can we talk about here? But yeah, we all had a lot of fun, you know. We did. And dude, that was it. Like it was an odd rock and roll, like rock star. Yet you had that Wild West mentality, because if we fast forward, because you and I both did XPW, and then you and I both were on board with Wrestling Society X with MTV. And as fun as that was, and it's great, like this is awesome. We have a platform. We have MTV as a platform here, and this is great. But being in the back with the production, it was like, this is so watered down and careful.
Hollywood.
And
Hollywood was different.
Yeah.
And we weren't used to Hollywood. I'm used to Hollywood now because that's all my whole world. That's what I live in, legit. But it was such a different world. Like when they told us, we're going to get paid, we're going to have per diems, we're going to get all these things.
Right.
Like you were treated different. It was just when you were on set, you were treated different. People coming up and offering you food and telling you to take a break, and the way they shot things. Oh, we didn't get your entrance. We need you to go back out and do your entrance. And you're like, whoa, what?
Yeah.
We didn't get this move in a match. Can y'all go back out there and do this move? And we're like, no, we don't do that. At first, it was a big fight. So
yeah, it was.
Yeah, it was a fight, and that's where the difference came in being WSX and XPW, because XPW was a wrestling company, WSX was a television show.
Yeah, it was a television show, and we talked about this many times throughout the years, but it was an ongoing battle. First, we had to do the show, we had to produce the show, then we had to basically tell the network, look, this is how pro wrestling works. You know, but then the network would chime in like, ooh, you know what would be cool? This and that. We're like, no, that doesn't make sense. You know, it's things like that.
And it was a battle. It was a battle.
It was a battle.
They had never dealt with pro wrestling before, so it was just. It sucked because that was such a fun project to work on, and it was big for a lot of us. Like I thought that I was going to be, you know, have 10 chicks on me at spring break at like Club La Vila and doing the MTV Music Awards. No.
Well, that's what the pitch was, though, in the beginning. Not just what we thought. That was what the network was pitching to us, you know. And they, for all intents and purposes, they were on board with that. And then there was a shift in management at MTV by around season 4, because when we were doing the wraparounds in Burbank, that was when we had the meetings with the MTV execs, and then all of a sudden everyone's different. And in the beginning of WSX, they wanted to get away from that female audience, the 16 and pregnants and all that. And so they want to get the jackass audience that they basically totally lost. So we were one of those shows that was coming on board. But like by episode 4 or 5, it was a switch in clientele. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh wait, what is this show? This is going to take 16 and pregnant off the air. You know, so they went back to that whole, and it was just the writing was on the wall. So it was so bittersweet, because it was sweet because of this platform, but the bitterness of like dealing with a network, you know.
Look, I wanted to be at spring break so bad. I had these bad in my mind.
That's awesome, man. I
was this poor white boy growing up in New Orleans, never traveled, used to see spring break on TV and see all the girls. I was like, I'm gonna go there one day. I'm gonna go there.
And WSX is my ticket to spring break, right?
That's right. Now I'm Now look at that.
Oh man. I think you're all right, man. But let's go back a little bit to like, I know you talked a lot now about your thoughts on being involved in death matches, because that, again, came to you as a surprise. And again, the pinnacle, yeah.
I hated it.
Yeah. Okay. So you hated it. Right. You didn't like it. Again, though, when people look at your career and they watch that, do you feel like, as much as you hated it, do you feel like that was a necessity as far as getting eyeballs on you, proving yourself, and opening up new doors?
100% it was. I mean, definitely.
Yeah.
That's not thought. I had to do it, and
Yeah.
I'm thankful that I did it.
Yeah.
You know, there's some things I would like to change, and some parts that I'm not really fond of. I mean, you know, just bad taste in my mouth. The reasons I dislike Rob, because he has no, you know, regard for any other person at all.
Right.
And that came when I put my hand up for that chair shot that we spoke about earlier.
Right.
He had me crucified by Supreme and smashed in the head several times with the chair, so I couldn't defend myself. And it gave me such a bad concussion. Really did some damage. It really did, and long term. So,
Well, sorry to hear that.
yeah, exactly. So it's one of those things, I don't talk about it, but that was my first real bad concussion, and I mean, it was
Because I don't think when we've talked, I don't think you ever brought that up to me either. Just one-on-one, hanging out. No.
I don't really talk. But that's one thing that left a big distaste in my mouth, and because he had no regard in it, I had to pay this price to show how tough I was because I put my hand up for a chair shot, and it's like, bitch, what have you done? What have you done besides pump money into this? What have you done? You ain't a wrestler. You don't put your body on the line. You didn't go through the training. You know what I mean? You didn't do none of that. So don't tell me how tough I am.
Right. I always, myself too, the very little that I've ever done in a ring, like I would never ever mention to a wrestler like what he's going through or whatever, because I don't know, you know.
You want to tell me how to go out, fight me, motherfucker? Fight me.
Yeah.
And we'll see who's tougher.
There you go. I mean, it's a good point. So from the death matches, just overall, Luke, can you give me like a top 3 or a top 4, or just what are some of your favorite matches in XPW? Whether they're death match, whether they're regular, you know.
I got several. You know, of course, the first one's always sentimental because it was my debut and I was well accepted, and that's what got me on my way. But it wasn't my favorite or in my favorites. My match at Extreme Takeover, Hostile Takeover.
Angel.
No, me, Vic Grimes, and Little Guido.
Oh yeah, that was Supreme and Angel. You're right. Yeah. Thank you.
That's when Supreme power bomb Angel off the crow's nest.
Oh, dude! And then there was barely, like, he skipped the table. It was concrete.
Oh, dude, that was scary.
I saw you in an interview recently, and you were saying, like, and I agree, like, it's amazing that guy is functioning the way he is today.
Yeah, I mean, look, John did some crazy stuff, bro. I don't know how he's living. He did what he took. You know, screw what I did. The things he's done top everything I did. He just, you know, it was just crazy bumps for no reason. Crazy bumps, and he felt that he always had to outdo himself because of that mentality that Rob and them had to push him to, so you wouldn't be a bitch. You know what I mean? You want to be here. You prove that you want to be here. You got to outdo it. I'm thinking, bro, you're going to get killed. I was literally thinking that. I was like, you're going to get killed.
Yeah, or paralyzed, something, you know. But like, go back though. So that would be one of like your favorite matches, and
so you got,
and where
me, Vic Grimes, and Guido. Of course, the match
Hustle Takeover.
Huh?
I'm sorry. That was just going reiterating for the fans. That was XPW's Hostile Takeover.
Yeah,
the first one.
Yeah, the first time we went to Philly, the debut. Then Fallout, where I won the belt.
Great.
And then try to pick 3. You know what? My match with Vinny Massaro at that Night of Champions.
Pico Vera.
Yeah, I mean, I guess to tie that match with him and a match with Supreme that night too, because with me and
really?
Vinny, we said because we didn't want to. Me and Vinny is such a good wrestler. We didn't want to do deathmatch stuff, so we said, look, let's each do one deathmatch thing and let's put together a good match. And we thought the fans would shit on it. We thought the fans would hate it because they wanted to see death matches. And you know how those fans were. They wanted to
Of
see
course.
death. They wanted to see
Blood
blood.
and guts.
Yeah, so me and Vinny went in there and we built this match up, and we only took one bump each. He hit the bed of nails once off a drop kick. I got T-boned and my legs went into the bed of barbed wire, so it wasn't even a big deal. But we had a standing ovation after that match.
Yeah.
Super, and which built my confidence up to go to Supreme, where we did several deathmatch things. And I had a
Right.
blade the first time and get juice. And I dropped my blade. I had dropped my blade, so I got hard weight. Supreme hard weight.
Wow.
Oh
boy.
Get me, yeah. So
if there's anybody to get hard weight by, good God. Right.
Hey, yeah, and I was that's what I'm saying. He took care of me. And I think that's where I really respect. So
that's great, man. Hey, yeah, that I can't say enough about that match with you, and you're right, Vinny Massaro, very underrated. But that match, I urge people. Yeah, shout out to Vinny, man. I hope to have you on. We're gonna have Angel on in the near future as well, already booked. But we talk about Supreme and what he meant, and where you went after fighting him, going against him. I know we talked about him a lot, but is there anything before we move to the next subject? Anything like a memory or a story, or just a tribute that you'd like to share about Lester?
the most memorable thing for me is that he passed that torch to me, and we talked about it, and goes back to him letting me take that belt home. That meant, because I knew what that belt meant to him. Everybody did. It was his belt.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that he gave it to me, I was looking at the pictures the other day. I got all these pictures of me, and I kept bugging him. Hey, take another picture with me. Take another picture with me. Take another picture with me. And I thought he was going to get pissed off, but he never did. And I must have made him take 50 pictures that night because I was so happy. I'm serious.
That's awesome. That's awesome, man.
You know what I mean? That's what I think about with him. And I'm thankful that he chose me for whatever reason it is to give me that opportunity.
Yeah, like I said, I mean, I think your mentality coming in, you had a different way about you. And look, I mean, it showed you not only in wrestling, but you went on to do other things too, which is awesome as can be. We'll talk about that in a sec. What was it like being a part of, fast forward after XPW had folded back in 2003? Of course, kind of took everybody by surprise. The industry kind of was changing rapidly during that era. And big time. And then money problems, and Rob had his own personal issues and with his other companies and whatever. But it was just unfortunate for the guys who were part of that, who gave their heart and soul. And it was crazy because it was like the momentum, the company had evolved and matured to a place where it was maybe going to get to a different place of professionalism and whatnot. And then boom, the plug was pulled. So let's fast forward 5 years after that. And then boom, XPW reunion show. You, of course, were a big part of that. And how was that to you, coming back out to California and then seeing all the guys again? Not only that, but seeing the buzz and the support from fans during the.
It was cool, and we had some new faces in too, because we that show we mixed in some new faces, and I got to tie in with what year was that?
2008, May 24th.
Okay. Yeah, so it was after WSX. So we had
yes.
Okay. Yeah, so we had some WSX guys on the show. I had some personal friends come on that show, which was really cool for me. It's man. We had Terry Funk, everybody. Like it was just a good time, man. That was a good time. It was you got to see the boys, you got to see everybody, and it's been a long time. I mean, look, if we had a reunion today, how many people would be around? Speaking of people, Pogo looks amazing. If you have
Oh,
not seen,
really?
he's dropped so much
No.
weight. And he
Oh, I heard about that. Yeah, I heard. I
yeah,
haven't seen pictures. Yeah,
yeah, he's kicking
I'd
it.
love. That's awesome, man. And again, talking about Grimes earlier, just one of the best dudes behind and in front. Like he was just the greatest.
Well,
He
you
is
talk about
just
who
the
killed
greatest.
people. Pogo used to murder people. Hey, if you were wrestling Pogo the Clown, forget it.
Oh,
Forget it.
dude. I
Yeah.
mean, I remember the greatest thing ever, like most extreme thing ever, real and just hysterical was when the Insane Clown Posse came into XPW, and here Pogo took exception to these other clowns, and he not beat the shit out of them. And then
Oh, dude.
I remember after that happened, I was, and then they, Shaggy Two Dope, and they got online and they were doing interviews like, man, screw this. This is not the way it's supposed to be. And it
Oh,
was
dude.
like, cause they got stiffed, and it didn't hit me until like a week later. Like, this is awesome. Like he's upset because there's different clowns. Like I didn't
Yeah.
even,
Hey,
put
bro,
like, I thought
he
he was
murdered him. He beat the
right.
piss out of him.
But I didn't even look at ICP like he's not going to take your spot, Pogo. But Pogo thought like, what the hell is this clown doing? I'm the fucking clown here. Like
Yeah.
it was awesome, man. And I didn't hit me.
He tore him a
It
new
didn't hit
ass.
me. It's like it didn't hit me till 1 or 2 weeks later. It's like this is because of a clown gimmick, man. Oh my gosh, dude, hysterical. And he stiffed. And that one dude,
Oh,
not Shaggy Two Dope, but what was the other guy's name?
Violent
Uh,
J.
yeah, Violent J, like big dude. And then Pogo made him look like a twig figure, man. Like,
They were such punk bitches, bro. Them dudes. They were soft, bro. That's some soft ass dudes.
wow, man. Well, it was exposed that night for sure,
Oh yeah.
man. No, I would love to get back in touch with him. I'm so glad to hear he's doing well. He was in a rough place last time I saw him.
Yeah,
So,
his
and I think that
mom passed away. His mom
yeah, that's
passed away.
right. His mom, and that was,
He really got a second
I'm,
window. So he really
oh
got
my gosh.
and took a new control on life, which was cool, and just because he got pretty heavy there for a while. So it's good to see good people take care of themselves and do well.
That's great. Thanks for sharing that, Luke. That's awesome. And he's always welcome on this show, of course, at any time. Do you think at a time that XPW, other than the reunion shows, we didn't talk XPW 10, which came out after Cold Day in Hell. It wasn't as successful, but I think the economy had a lot to do with that. But did you think at a time that XPW would be revived when you were coming in, when I was working with Kevin at Big Vision Entertainment and just seeing the whole operation there? Were you at a time thinking like, you know what, this could be revived? This has some potential now. It's a little different than it was before.
I mean, like it would be fun to do, but I don't think it would be. I don't think it would be big. You know what I mean? I think it's lost. It didn't have that ECW power. Like you could just put
Yeah.
ECW. Like everybody knows ECW. Not everybody
Yeah.
knows ECW. Wrestling
Right.
fans know XPW, but non-wrestling fans know ECW. So it was a novelty. So if you put out ECW, if you put out an ECW reunion show today, it would still get a lot of attention.
It would, yeah. I think at the time, and you remember, you would come into the office there at Big Vision Entertainment, and they unfortunately, again, this was before the crash, but they were working with the Sci-Fi Network, of course, with MTV and doing all these different projects. So I remember at the time, it felt like there would maybe be a little bit of potential here, and that's kind of what the buzz was, because this was a shift in what was happening with media at the time. Because with media, it was all about DVDs, and then this was like the between time where it was switching to the smart technology, to the apps on your phone, to the apps on your TV, and so they were trying to figure that out at the time, because between DVDs and apps and all this smart technology, it was very short lived. But what companies like Big Vision and everything, MTV and all these Sci-Fi Network, anybody, NBC, they were constructing cable boxes for their very own companies, and homes would have different small cable boxes, like a Big Vision cable box. So this was very short lived, and then the smart technology came out. So we were there at a time where it's kind of interesting. We were trying to figure out. We knew DVDs were going out. They were quickly going out of style, basically, and we were transitioning to like, okay, we're going to get these new cable boxes, which eventually ended up becoming apps. So you had this company like Big Vision, who was working on CBS, again, the Ghost Hunter shows, all that stuff. So at the time, I think a lot of people that knew about that had a lot of hopes that, like, hey, XPW on its own, I understand it's going to be an uphill battle, but if you had this production company behind it, sky's the limit. And unfortunately, that just never unfolded.
It sucked, yeah, because we did have high hopes for Big Vision. Everything they touched, you had the potential because of how big backyard wrestling was, and Girls Going Wild. Yeah. Those were like the two biggest things, video wise, and Big Vision was behind one of them. So we thought Wrestling Society X was going to be the next big thing. So it was like the potential was there, but we had sparks, we just never caught fire.
True. And shout out to Kevin and Houston and all those guys, because they
hard work, great, guys,
and professional, and not your typical sleazy, shady promoter. Like it didn't feel like that with those guys. Yeah. Well, Luke, man, it's been great, and I want to ask you real quick, how is it teaming with the youngster? You and your son are wrestling together now.
Ever. It is the greatest thing ever. I love him to death. So it's of course every parent loves their kid, but to be able to do the things I get to do with my kid is just everything and then some in life, and it makes me thankful, man, because we get to enjoy things together. We still father and son, so it's not like we're best friends. We don't do everything.
Come on now.
We're a lot alike, but we're also different. I don't play video games, really. He plays video games. But, we have this bond that's really inseparable and this mutual respect for each other. And he makes me so proud of how good he is and how loving he is and how caring he is and how hard he works. And, everybody wants their kids to be better than them. So I know how hard I work to get to where I'm at and hopefully to provide for him and help him in his life so he doesn't have the struggles that I had growing up. But he also knows that as well, so he works extremely hard to outdo everything I've done because he looks up to me. So it's cool. And now we're getting to hit the road together and wrestle together, and it's never been done before. It's been done like as a novelty. It happened like once, twice times. Because Bob was already old. And he was teaming with Brad, but he couldn't do what he did. The Dusty team with Dustin. So, but they didn't have runs.
Yeah, they didn't have run like Bruno and David Sammartino, things like that. It just, they were, like you said, they ended up being novelty acts. Whether they saw long-term success for that or visions, it usually didn't pan out that way. That's good tributes to you, man.
Right, and then so it's cool because I had him at such a young age, and I'm still very young. And I feel like I haven't hit my prime. And he's so agile and athletic and hardworking. He picks everything up like that. He loves it. So he grew up with the business. So he has a different element of it than I had because everything I had, I had him. Everything, like there was so much in him that he just grew up on. It was second nature to him. He didn't really have to learn. And, we do everything together. He's in the movie business now. He's got, several movies under his belt. And right now we're working on a major TV show, and we're
awesome, man.
Together as a father-son team. We're tag teaming, we're wrestling, and, I'm fortunate to be able to share the things in the movie business with him, and we do all these amazing things as father-son, man. And we just moved out to Georgia. We're living in Georgia right now, and his little brother, my other son, is at home, which sucks because we don't get to really see him, like we were doing. And but at the same time, I'm enjoying my time with him. Our time in wrestling, our time in film, just being what we are. It's amazing.
You can't ask for anything more, man. I mean, you're with the one you love and doing the things you love to do. So that's a blessing, big time, man. let me ask you, speaking of entertainment, so, I mean, again, man, you are a part of some of the biggest franchise in movies, the X-Men franchise with Logan, the Fast and Furious franchise with the Fate and the Furious.
The new movie that's out right now, New Mutants.
Yeah, so that one was with Jamie Foxx, right?
No, that's Project Power. I'm in that too. That's another
Oh.
number one movie. Yeah, that's on Netflix, baby.
Oh, there's so many you forgot, man. Come on.
Many, yeah. I was
So
saying the New Mutants movie that's out in theaters right now. There's a small clip of me in that because they hash up my scene in Logan on New Mutants.
Oh, okay. Dang.
Yeah.
Well, so how did you, I got a question here online from one Jaden Ilbig, and he wants to know how did you get into the entertainment scene? How did you get started?
Vampiro.
Oh, that's right. The Vampiro.
Yeah, we did the movie when we did Wrestling Society X. You know, at first me and
Dead
Vampiro,
Sleep Easy.
you know, I didn't like Vampiro at first, and we had some words at the beginning of WSX, but those words brought us together, gained a bunch of respect. He had that movie in Mexico, and him and his directors got me down to go down there and do that. That was my first movie. Kind of lit a fire into my ass to do movies, and you know, I started chasing it from there on out. So
Yeah,
really,
you were definitely focused. I think that was during WSX. Dead Sleep Easy was a movie, and I remember when you were crashing with me, and I remember you were just like, your eyes were wide and talking about this and what's going to happen and all this stuff. And sure enough, man, I have to tell you, because 99% of people have that same feeling and nothing happens. So that's, again, good tributes to you for following that up, and then your son seeing that too.
It's just,
So
the coolest thing, and I want to say this. You know, it's awesome to be able to do the things I'm doing, and I love it. I love my job. I absolutely love it. But to be able to help others and be able to provide those opportunities for others and give others breaks and get others opportunities, which I've been doing. And I don't know if I get a lot of credit for it. I'm not even looking for credit. I'm just saying, from me, from a personal standpoint, I've got so many people involved in a film or in the film business or in wrestling that, that is the big one for me. I really enjoy being able to help people and see others get some joy out of something.
well, I'll give my agent, your agent, my card, and we'll see where it goes from there. But let's tell me a little bit about starting WildKat, Luke.
I really wanted to open up a wrestling school in Louisiana because I thought everything down there was bad, as I was saying earlier. I thought they needed somewhat more proper training, and we could really build something strong coming out of the South, which was non-existent since the 80s. So I put together WildKat. Then I started training these guys, and then I thought, well, I can't have them go wrestle these turds now. Now that they're trained, I've got to put them in the ring with somebody good. So I got to start running shows. So I started running shows, and 200 people turned into 400 people, and 400 people turned into 800 people. 800 people turned into 1,000. 1,000 turned into 2,000. And then COVID hit.
Yeah. Just when the momentum was picking up, man.
Like overnight, we're going on our 9th year now. We started in 2011.
Wow, it's been that long. Oh my gosh, man.
In 2011, so it's.
So are you running shows strictly in Louisiana for WildKat?
We've ran all over. We've ran LA.
Okay.
Diego. We've ran Philly at the ECW Arena several times. We've ran Atlanta, Georgia. So we've branched out, but
that's great.
Primarily in Louisiana. But it's cool that we've done these shows in other states.
Are you now? Do you usually travel to go to all the shows yourself?
Yeah, I have to. Yeah, I got to.
Okay, all right. Where was I, man? Where was the last time you were in LA? Do you remember?
Well, see, I'm always in LA, and I had no idea where you were at because I actually always thinking I'd be in down. Last time I was out there, I was in downtown LA. I was thinking, right here. I wonder what the hell happened to him if he still lives there. We found contact. I didn't have a number on you.
Yeah.
I didn't have any social media or anything. So, everybody keeps in touch with social media nowadays anyway.
I know. I'm trying to I just now learned how to do MySpace, and I found out it was gone for 12 years. So now I've got to catch up. But no, but yeah, but it happens in the business, but I'm so glad to not only hear your stories, your extreme memories, but just my friend, just catching up with you, man. And I'm looking forward.
Up off, huh? It's like we never left.
It's totally true, man. And minus all the parting stuff in the background and all that we've experienced with XPW, but yeah, this is all the same and right here for sure, man. But no, any parting thoughts for anything you want to plug? Anything for the fans out there? Any tributes that you want to say? Anything more you want to say about your son teaming up or about WildKat? Please do so.
I just want to thank everybody for supporting. The guys who supported me throughout the years. Of course, I'm thankful for all the guys. I'm even thankful for Rob. Even though like I said, I heavily dislike Rob for the way he treated guys. I'm thankful that he gave me an opportunity. So, XPW was sentimental for me, and there's things I didn't agree with there because I love what I do so much. Everything I do, I put my heart into. I don't just half-ass anything. So I do it with wrestling. I do it with the film business. I do it with weightlifting. And I do it with raising my children. So it's one of these things where I cared so much about XPW because it was my big break that it was also such a letdown because of how much I cared about it. You understand?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I'm thankful for the relationship from it. Kevin Kleinrock's one of my best friends. I'm so proud of what Smiley's doing. He stuck it in. I'm so proud of Joey Chaos for building the empire he's built in Southern California. So, I'm thank y'all, man. That's it.
Well, look, couldn't have said it better myself. And again, my friend, thank you for joining us. We'd love to have you back again. We can get into more stuff, maybe some Wrestling Society X and more specifically. But this was Extreme Memories. Our guest today was Hawx, one of the all-time greats. And this was episode 4. This was episode 4. Not quite there yet. This was episode 4 of Extreme Memories with Kris Kloss. Want to thank our guest, Hawx. Want to thank everybody for watching right here on the Wrestling Chatter channel. Be sure once again to subscribe, give a thumb up, and please share this video, whoever you think is interested. And we will see you next time right here on the Wrestling Chatter channel with more Extreme Memories.
Thank you for watching Extreme Memories, hosted by Kris Kloss. He's dropping new episodes every month on the 15th and 30th. You can be the first to tune in by subscribing to the Wrestling Chatter channel right here on YouTube. See you next time.